This isn't your average classic car restoration. No sir, this is a whole different animal. We're talking about a 1952 M35. A two-military truck. A hulking beast of a machine nicknamed Old Iron. Now, Old Iron wasn't exactly a beauty queen. She was more like that tough-as-nails grandma who'd seen it all and wasn't afraid to tell you about it. Rust? She had it in spades. Dents? Those were battle scars, badges of honor. This truck had character, that's for sure. But she also had potential. Underneath all that grime and faded olive drab paint, there was a solid machine just waiting to be brought back to life. And I, for one, was itching to get my hands dirty. There's just something about these old military vehicles. They represent a different era, a time when things were built to last. They're a testament to American ingenuity and craftsmanship. I first laid eyes on Old Iron in a farmer's field, baking under the scorching summer sun. She was a sorry sight, her tires flat, her paint peeling, her once proud grille now resembling a mouthful of missing teeth. But even in that dilapidated state there was a certain majesty about her, a sense of rugged strength that whispered tales of bygone adventures. Now this wasn't just any old truck, it was a symbol of resilience and hard work. This was my grandpa's truck, a true testament to his character. He bought it after his tour of duty in Korea, where he served with honor and bravery. Used it on his farm for years, hauling everything from hay bales to family memories. He loved that truck like it was one of his kids, always tinkering with it, keeping it in top shape. Taught me to drive in it, actually. Those lessons were more than just about driving, they were about life. Shifting those gears was like wrestling a bear, but I loved every minute of it. It was a rite of passage. When Grandpa passed, the truck sat idle, a silent reminder of the man who once drove it. Nobody had the heart to get rid of it. It was like letting go of a piece of him. But seeing it rust away in that field, it felt like a part of him was fading too. It was heartbreaking. That's when I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let his legacy rust away. This restoration wasn't just about the truck. It was about bringing back the spirit of my grandpa. It was about honoring my grandfather's memory, keeping his stories alive. It was about preserving a piece of our family history, something tangible we could hold on to. It was about reconnecting with a simpler time, when men were men and trucks were built like tanks. A time of integrity and strength. It was time to get Old Iron back on the road and let her roar once again, just like Grandpa would have wanted. It was going to be a long, tough journey, I knew that, but it was a journey worth taking. But as I stood there looking at that rusty hulk, I couldn't help but smile. It was the beginning of something beautiful. I knew Grandpa was up there somewhere, grinning down at me, a twinkle in his eye, proud of the journey I was about to embark on. He always did love a good challenge. It was in his nature to never back down. And this, my friends, was shaping up to be one heck of a challenge. But it was a challenge I was ready to face, for him. The first order of business was getting Old Iron back to my garage. Now this wasn't your average two-car garage. This was my sanctuary, my workshop, my escape from the world. It was filled to the brim with tools, parts, and projects in various states of completion. It was a place where I could tinker for hours on end, losing myself in the intricacies of engines and the satisfaction of bringing something back to life. Getting Old Iron in there was like trying to fit a hippopotamus into a bathtub. We had to winch her up onto a flatbed, and even then, it was a tight squeeze. But once she was inside, I felt a surge of excitement. The restoration could officially begin. Now anyone who's ever tackled a project like this knows that the first step is always the most daunting. It's that moment when you're staring at this massive rusty beast, and you have no idea where to even begin. Do you start with the engine? The chassis? The bodywork? It's enough to make you want to grab a beer, kick back and forget the whole thing. But I'm not one to back down from a challenge. I rolled up my sleeves, grabbed my trusty wrench, and dove in headfirst. The first hurdle? Getting the hood open. It was a battle of wills between man and machine. That thing was stuck tighter than a drum. Years of rust and neglect had turned it into a stubborn fortress. It was like trying to open a bank vault with a butter knife. Every attempt seemed futile. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of yanking, pulling, and a few choice words that would make a sailor blush, the hood creaked open. Victory at last. And there it was, the engine, the heart of the beast, hidden away for so long, or what was left of it anyway. Time had not been kind to this old workhorse. It was a greasy, grimy mess. Layers of filth told the story of years of neglect, covered in dirt, cobwebs, and who knows what else. It was like a time capsule of automotive history, It looked like a pack of raccoons had been living in there for the past decade. Nature had certainly made itself at home. Now this wasn't your average V8 engine, this was something special. This was a Continental Inline-6, a workhorse of an engine known for its simplicity and reliability, a true gem in the world of classic cars. But even the most reliable engines need a little TLC after sitting idle for decades. It was time to bring it back to life. First things first, we needed to see if this old girl would turn over. The moment of truth was upon us. We hooked up a new battery, crossed our fingers, and turned the key. Silence. Not even a whimper, not a single sound. The anticipation was palpable. Don't worry, I told myself, it's probably just stuck. Classic cars always have their quirks. Of course, just stuck in the world of classic car restoration could mean anything from a loose wire to a seized engine. The possibilities were endless. Only one way to find out. We had to dig deeper. Time to break out the big guns. This engine wasn't going to fix itself. Section 5, A Symphony of Metal. This is where the magic happens, where the old meets the new, and where patience and persistence pay off. We're talking penetrating oil, my friends. The unsung hero of the mechanical world, the elixir of life for any rusty bolt or stubborn nut. It seeps into the crevices, breaking the bonds of rust and corrosion. We sprayed it liberally on every nut, bolt, and connection we could find. Then we waited. The anticipation was palpable. Patience is a virtue, they say, especially when you're dealing with a vintage vehicle. Every minute felt like an hour. After what felt like an eternity, we tried again. The moment of truth had arrived. This time we were greeted with a slow, agonizing groan. The sound of progress, albeit slow. It wasn't pretty, but it was a start. A small victory in the grand scheme of things. With a lot of grunting, groaning, and a few more choice words, the engine finally cranked over. It was a team effort. It sputtered, coughed, and let out a cloud of smoke that would make a chimney blush. But it was alive. The first breath of life in years. That sound, that glorious symphony of metal, was music to my ears, a melody of mechanical marvel. It was the sound of progress, the sound of hope, the sound of old iron coming back to life, a testament to our hard work. Over the next few weeks, the garage became my second home. Late nights and early mornings blurred together. Days turned into nights as we painstakingly disassembled, cleaned, and rebuilt every inch of that engine. Each part told a story. It was a crash course in mechanics, a masterclass in problem solving. Every challenge was a lesson learned. For every part we managed to salvage, there were two more that needed replacing, the balance of restoration. But with each obstacle we overcame, with each part we cleaned and polished, old iron started to look a little less like a rusty relic and a little more like the proud truck she once was. A transformation that was nothing short of miraculous. Now, working on old iron wasn't just about the mechanical challenge, it was about the memories that came flooding back with every bolt I loosened, every part I cleaned. I found old tools tucked away in the glove box, tools that my grandfather had used. I found a faded photograph of my grandmother taped to the sun visor, her smile as radiant as ever. And then there were the stories. Stories that my dad would tell me as we worked side by side. Stories about my grandfather and old iron, about their adventures on the farm and beyond. Like the time they got stuck in a snowdrift so deep they had to dig themselves out with shovels, or the time they used old iron to tow their neighbor's tractor out of a ditch. With every story, old iron became more than just a truck. She became a time capsule, a tangible link to my family's past. After months of sweat, grease, and the occasional curse word, the day finally arrived. The day we fired up old iron's engine and she roared back to life. It wasn't the smoothest engine in the world. It still had a bit of a rattle, a bit of a shake, but it ran, and that's all that mattered. We took her out for a spin down the road, and it was like turning back time. The way she rumbled down the road, the wind in my hair, the sun on my face, it was exhilarating. It wasn't just a drive, it was an experience. It was a connection to my grandfather, a way to keep his memory alive. We still had a long way to go. The bodywork needed attention, the interior needed a complete overhaul, but that first drive was a victory lap. It was a testament to our hard work, our dedication, and our refusal to let a little rust stand in our way. Now I know what you're thinking. Jay, why didn't you just restore it to its former glory? Why not give it a fresh coat of paint, a brand new interior, make it look like it just rolled off the assembly line? And you know what? I thought about it. But then I realized something. Old iron's beauty wasn't about being perfect. It was about the stories etched into her dented panels, the history woven into her faded paint. Those imperfections were badges of honor, reminders of her journey, her resilience. So we decided to keep it simple. We patched up the rust, gave her a good cleaning, and left the rest as is. Because sometimes the most beautiful things in life are the ones that bear the marks of time, the ones that have a story to tell. Restoring old iron wasn't just about fixing a truck. It was about reconnecting with my family's past, about honoring my grandfather's memory. It was about the satisfaction of taking something old, something forgotten, and bringing it back to life. It was about the journey, the challenges, the triumphs, and the lessons learned along the way. And you know what? It was about a heck of a lot of fun. So, the next time you see an old car, an old truck, an old anything rusting away in a field, don't just walk on by, take a closer look. You never know what stories it might hold, what adventures it might have lived. You never know, you might just be inspired to give it a second chance at life. Because sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones we unearth ourselves.